Hey Bison fans, add a little green in your wallet with the NDSU debit card from Gate City Bank. For every card ordered, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Get your Gate City Bank Bison debit card today at gatecity.bank/bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC.
Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
And welcome everybody to the Bison Media Zone here on this Wednesday with Mike McFeely. I'm Dom Izzo, and first time we think we've done this, we actually got this like a breaking news bomb land in our laps.
So every evening before I do this segment, every couple of weeks,
Yeah.
I get an email from you saying, here's the show schedule, here's what we're going to do, here's the timing of it all. So I take some time to do some homework and write down some notes. And so just allow me to do this and throw it there, and we can talk about the big news of the day that's happened.
Which is Tyler Roehl is leaving North Dakota State to become the associate head coach and offensive coordinator at Tennessee State. Tennessee State is in the Ohio Valley / the Big South. They have merged over the last couple of years. They're coached by Eddie George, former Heisman winner at The Ohio State, NFL player with the Tennessee Titans. They were 6-5 last year, Mike. The ironic part of this, Tennessee State comes to Fargo this year.
Well, yeah, there's a ton of story angles here, but let's hit the obvious one,
the big one right off the
which
hop
is
here.
that Tyler Roehl was a finalist for the NDSU head coaching job when Matt Entz went to USC as an assistant. He did not get that job after the players vocally, publicly came out to support him.
Past and present.
Tyler has been there at NDSU either as a player or a coach for most of the last 20 years. He's from West Fargo. I refer to him multiple times as Mr. Bison. I mean, he is that guy for North Dakota State. Did not get the head coaching job that went to Tim Polasek. There was some unhappiness there when that happened. Both I have heard in the fact that he didn't get the job, obviously. He thought that that was his next step. Also, I think the way it went down, I have heard from people that it didn't really go down the way it should have gone down in terms of when he found out, how he found out, etc. Now, we thought all that was sort of like, okay, you know, he's unhappy. We all thought he was going to leave.
In the few days after
we all
was
thought,
announced.
okay,
Yes.
you know, Tyler's gone.
Yep.
And then it was announced that he got the associate head coaching job.
It was 2 weeks ago Monday. it
And,
happened.
you know, I'm sure got a raise with that. And, you know, he had been telling people, I'm happy the way they took care of me.
He came on this show and said it.
Everything is fine. The head coach, Tim Polasek, was saying, I don't know why everybody's asking me about this. We're
here.
solid.
Yep.
He's here. He's the offensive coordinator. Clearly, that was not the case in Tyler Roehl's eyes. And, you know, the fact that he went to Tennessee State,
that's going to raise some eyebrows.
That's going to raise some eyebrows. But, man, there's 15 different ways to take this story now. But the fact is that he clearly wasn't happy and that he's gone. The guy who's been running the offense, which has been really good for the last several years since Courtney Messingham left. It was good then too, but Tyler Roehl, the numbers don't lie. He's gone.
Yeah. I want to get to the replacement in a second. I want to stick on the thought of where he went. Tennessee State they're not an up-and-coming program. They're just there. They won 6 football games. They had a chance if they lost their last 3 to make potentially an at-large bid to the FCS playoffs. They haven't really been a factor at all. That's why I mean, they hired Eddie George to get the Deion buzz when Deion got hired at Jackson State.
And that was unfair for Eddie George
because he's
just not he's not Deion Sanders. But there, you know, you got the former NFL guy who played for Tennessee, the Titans in the NFL,
right there in Nashville.
And Tennessee State is in Nashville. But that's what stands out to me is when I saw this breaking news is, okay, so he's going to, you know, Boise State as the quarterback's coach, or he's going to Fresno State as the OC but Tennessee State is the one that you go, wow, and it's associate head coach, offensive coordinator from what we understand, or play caller.
Yep.
And so it's in terms of the duties,
the titles are the same.
The titles are the same. Yep. Maybe he's going to get paid more. That seems unlikely going from NDSU to Tennessee State. And so maybe that just shows he just wanted to get out of here. Just wanted to leave.
Unless there's something we were visiting off air. If Eddie George is saying, I'm not going to be here that long, that maybe you're the coach in waiting, but Tyler's been down that road.
But if you're Tyler Roehl, do you trust anybody anymore when it comes to that?
No, I don't.
And let me make clear, I had no problem with Tim Polasek getting the head coaching job. I actually thought
he was the top candidate. Yeah.
That just having somebody who had, the old story is somebody who had been out there and seen the way things are done differently in other places, I thought was a benefit and will be a benefit for the Bison program. Now, because Tyler left, and even though all the players, Cole Payton, Cam Miller, Gray Zabel, others said, no, we're staying, we're here.
Eli Green. Mm-hmm.
Eli Green, there's another transfer portal window, and that's a different angle that we need to go down as well. That, now how many, not to push the panic button for NDSU fans, but I think it's a fair conversation to have.
It's one certainly to have. The next conversation is who's in line then to be offensive coordinator. At this stage of the game, there are jobs that are still open, but most of them are filled up by this time. It could all start over again.
But this is an attractive job.
Right. That's what I was
Tyler Roehl just took a job
right
now.
Is there anybody on staff you imagine that would take this job? Is Randy Hedberg the guy that would
take
over?
No, I don't think Randy Hedberg at this stage of his career and this stage of his life. Yeah. I think the bigger question for him is Randy Hedberg even to come back now?
Stay on, right.
I think that's something that we've been hearing, that if Tyler didn't stick around, then maybe Randy's going to be gone as well. Yep. So that's another angle.
Correct.
So the quarterback guru is maybe not going to be here, and he hasn't committed one way or the other even before this news.
Nope.
I don't know if there's anybody on staff. It doesn't seem that
way. I
way.
think so.
And so Tim Polasek now has 3 positions now to fill. Safeties, cornerbacks,
and OC.
And the biggest one is the offensive coordinator.
Boy, you're right, though. It's an attractive job, at least with the players that we believe are coming back. If you have a 4-year starter at quarterback.
It's an attractive job regardless.
It's
college football always is going to have turnover. It's not going to be good for this year or the next couple of years for NDSU if a bunch of those guys leave. But the foundation is there. It's a good job, regardless of who the players are going to be there this year.
Just trying to think out there some names that does it have to have connection? We already heard that with the head coaching job needs to have a connection. I believe the offensive.
What's Courtney Messingham up to these days?
Nothing after he and Chris Kleiman parted ways a couple years ago.
I don't know. I'd
call him up.
I'd call him up.
Boy, things were pretty good that.
He had Easton Stick was a pretty good place to start, but
he's got Cam Miller.
But
presumably,
but again, there won't be any shortage of guys who want the job. It's just whether it's the right fit and all of the typical things. With Tyler Roehl returning and with the players who said they were going to come back prior to the closing of the transfer portal a week or so ago, NDSU was in the conversation for returning to Frisco and winning the national championship.
Yep.
No doubt about that. There were some questions, I think, on the offensive line that need to be addressed. There's still some questions in the secondary. Other than that, NDSU is going to be pretty
good.
Darn good. We'll see. I mean, we'll see now if Cam Miller, Cole Payton, Eli Green, Gray Zabel, Joe Stuffle, whomever decides to stay or decide to not be here, then what happens?
Now, the second window is April 15th through the 30th. Where players can go in. Right
after
now,
spring practice.
Grad transfers can go in whenever.
Correct. Yep.
That's why Gronowski is still out there floating at South Dakota State. But the second window is then, and the Bison will have wrapped up spring ball April 20th, I believe, is the last day of their spring practice.
So the NCAA times that so that all the teams can go through spring practice. Then the FBS teams can decide what holes they need to fill. Then they can come and just take the best players from all the teams below them.
Yes.
I mean,
or in reality, it's like, well, for FCS teams, you're not advancing up the depth chart. Maybe it's time for you to go somewhere else. But in reality, it's exactly that for what FBS does. I guess it all depends on who comes in is going to be the guy. If that's enough to, big letter word here, satiate the guys that are on the roster to say, all right, I want to be here. I want to be.
Well, right, and I mean, Gray Zabel, as an example, said, "Well, my brother's going to be here. He never seemed like he had the stars in his eyes. I don't know Gray. I didn't talk to him directly, but just from what I've heard, it didn't seem like he had the stars in his eyes of wanting to go to Auburn or wherever, Mississippi State or whoever, Louisville, that he was just content being at North Dakota State. He can get to the NFL from here. His brother was coming here. He's a South Dakota kid. All of that.
We just visited with Cam Miller during halftime of the Oral Roberts game on Saturday. He and Cole Payton both there with sporting the green and gold collective shirts that Jay Bartley has pretty much given to everybody. And the entire football team was there on Saturday to spur on the collective, to say this is a big reason why we're here. But we talked about this. There's only a certain amount they can get to that they're monetarily they can afford at North Dakota State. If there's a place that say, hey, there's a 3-year starter at Cam Miller, they're going to go.
I think with this news today, I don't know if it's so much about the money as it is about Tyler Roehl is the guy that they openly said should be the next head coach. He wasn't. Tim Paulsek sort of, tamped that down and placated that. And we've heard as well that Tim Paulsek's first team meeting, Tim said that. He's like, I went in with a script and whoa, 2 minutes into the meeting, I had to sort of call an audible and kind of say, hey, whoa, and what we understand is that it was not
received
well. It was not received well that he was going to be the head coach, and the players were vocal about it, that who they wanted to be the head coach. So I don't know if the concern about players leaving, if that's even a concern, we don't know that it is. It's always a concern, by the way, for everybody.
And this, right, it's not just here.
It's not just here. I don't know that it's about money as it is about, now the guy that has coached the offense for all of these guys' entire careers is now going someplace else. I think it's more about that than it would be about the money or the collective.
Let's break. We come back more on this. We're also going to look at starting our position breakdowns, looking at offensive line. And what we thought we knew, maybe even last night, maybe up in the air. We'll talk about that. Bison Media Zone rolls on here on WDAY Extra. We're back right after this.
Brent Vegan, he's a head coach.
Welcome back, everybody. Bison Media Zone. Your story on Inforum.com. I don't think Kalen DeBoer would be in line for that.
There's enough people in Millbank that have his cell phone number. They could check. We know that you're following Nick Saban at Alabama.
How about?
And you're going to make $10 million, $12 million, $15 million a year. But do you want to come back and be the OC at North Dakota State?
I think he's doing all
Danny
right.
Freund is taken.
Yeah,
he went down to
South Dakota
Brookings.
State.
Yep.
I got a couple sent in here. Noah Pauley. Now that's an interesting name. He's the wide receivers coach at Iowa State right now. He was offensive coordinator at Duluth prior to his time coaching for 4 years in Fargo.
And I think that he was viewed as a rising star who, was going to be an offensive coordinator someday. The question obviously is, are you going to leave a Big 12 program?
Right. A position coach there
Big 12 to be a coordinator job in FCS, and it's even though it's one of the top couple of jobs in FCS,
and it's familiar territory for
him.
And
he recruited and coached most of these players. You're not making that decision for 1 year. You're making a career decision. Would it be a pay cut? Probably. Is it an advancement career-wise? You'd call the plays at a pretty good FCS.
Head coach, right?
Yeah. So that's one name.
He got a lot of buzz, Mike, as you well know, after his attention with Christian Watson in the NFL draft 2 years ago. His name was all over in the
He's a sharp cat. He's a sharp man. So that would be one to think about. Again, it all depends on the money and the how he views the position.
Now, we were going to do this segment looking at starting our position preview for this year, and we're looking at offensive line, and now we have to maybe put an asterisk all by this because not sure who's going to play where if said players are coming back next season. But offensive line is
But we can go on the assumption that they are. They're going to go through spring practice that way, right? And for the most part.
They have 3 spots open, starters at the offensive line. We'll start with the guys we know are back. Gray Zabel, we know, is back. Assume that Zabel is going to be the left tackle in 2024 after he played and started the majority at right tackle at the end of 2023.
We think so, but if they have deficiencies elsewhere, the two guys returning are Gray Zabel and Mason Miller.
Yep.
Gray Zabel is high end. He was the guy that was being pursued by Power Fives with lots of money being thrown his way. And so presumably he would be the left tackle. Mason Miller would be the left guard. That's where they finished the year last season. But if you have three other open spots and you have question marks, then do you have to switch guys around and do you move those guys around to shore up what you would think would be weak spots in the line? I don't know.
Mason Miller, you mentioned, the Ada product, who was the starter at right tackle to end 2022 prior to get hurt. Started 23, then they moved him inside to guard. He's likely the guy right by Zabel next season.
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, again, that's, you want that left side to be strong as it has been at NDSU forever. Right. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they have 9 national championships is dominance on the offensive and defensive lines. And you want the left side. For a right-handed quarterback, that's the blind side. If Cole Payton, of course, is in there, then the blind side's the other side.
Right tackle. Yes.
Right, exactly. But yeah, those two guys are, getting them. If Gray Zabel would not have come back, and if he now decides to leave, they have some serious questions then up front because he is the anchor of that offensive line.
Center is up in the air, and that could go to the guy that just got here in Trent Fraley, the Marshall transfer, because Brandon Westberg's not coming back. They have, I think, one down the line in Jack Lewinsky, who they really, really like, but he's a redshirt freshman that Fraley might get the first opportunity to win this job.
And Hayden Johnson was number 2 on the depth chart at the end of last year, and so obviously they thought that he would, could maybe fill in. But I think the two names that have sort of emerged from folks I've talked with are maybe the transfer Fraley and then Chris Lewinsky, the guy that Jack Lewinsky. I'm sorry. Why do I say that? Chris played for the Vikings. Jack Lewinsky. Bison coaches really like Lewinsky.
Yes.
They really like Bo Johnson. Yes. And you're going to have to help me on the other
Griffin
name.
Empey is
Griffin
the other
Empey is the other one.
That they really like.
All three are redshirt freshmen. All three are going to be in the mix to play somewhere on the offensive line, either starting and certainly number 2 on the depth chart for this season.
2 on the right side are 2 guys that decided to come back for their 6-year of eligibility because they thought there's a chance to play. One is Jake Rock at right guard. The other is Hunter Pontius at right tackle. Both of them are huge humans, and they've been biding their time for this to be the opportunity to start.
Well, Jake Rock played a lot. He started a game or two, I think.
2 games in the playoffs.
In the 2021 spring season, and part of that was just injuries, depth. But he started 2 games in the playoffs.
For Jake Kubas against Drake this past playoff season.
And so he has experience. They like him. Coaches at NSU, it's just a matter of he's good, but the players he's been behind now for 4 years have been just better, and that's a tough place to be, but he stuck it out. Hunter Pontius, I don't think that he has been quite as relied upon. Jake Rock was the 6th guy this year. That's when they brought in the 6-man package. Hunter Pontius filled some of that because of injuries late in the year, but really he made his name so far with the block in Bozeman. And so those 2 guys are huge. They're experienced. They both can play. They're both fine FCS offensive linemen. But again, the level of play at NDSU is way higher than it is at other schools.
Be fun to follow what's going to happen. But, of course, the breaking news today as we wrap up the BMZ is Tyler Roehl is leaving North Dakota State to take the assistant head coach job and offensive coordinator at Tennessee State. Much more on this coming up throughout the day at Inforum.com and, of course, on WDAY Sports. And where the Bison go from here. The next job is going to be, who takes us over, going to be really, really interesting.
It never stops.
I was going to go right there.
It never
We joke
stops.
about this all the time. But
it used to stop. It never stops.
Not anymore on college football and Division I ranks. There's always something happening every day. Thanks for coming by, bud.
You bet.
Mike Feely joining us here this week on the Bison Media Zone. I'm Dom Izzo. We're back next Wednesday at 10:30 each and every Wednesday here for the Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extras. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Podcast available coming up later today at Inforum.com. We'll see everyone next week.
How can you spot a true Bison fan? They have an exclusive Bison debit card from Gate City Bank in their wallet. Plus, they know that for every card order, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Show your spirit with your own Bison card today at gatecity.bank/Bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC.